Hey guys, it's Brian, and I'm going to be doing my most likely my last update video for the internship, highlighting some of the major changes that were made. So, as you can tell from the home page, we made a lot of CSS changes to improve the readability as well as the responsiveness on different size screens. We also went ahead and replaced all of the links and the text from the placeholder text to actual content, and you can see that across the entire site. Some minor improvements to the dashboard as well, mostly just CSS changes. No real logic has changed there, so I'll move on to the biggest change on my part, which was the Netlify CMS. And first of all, to activate Netlify CMS, you need to be logged in to an admin account, and the admin role is given on the back end side, so it is secure from general accounts. But as you can tell, I'm currently logged in, so I'm going to go ahead and do a short demo of how to go ahead and turn these elements, or the generation of these elements, as well as the research lab elements, into or the generation of those elements are now in the form of a form instead of editing raw data and having direct access to the GitHub where things can go wrong, fields can get messed up, data can get misplaced. So this Netlify CMS removes a lot of that stress. So if you go to the admin panel, you'll see this screen, as long as you're an admin account. Here, you'll go to the collections and figure out which one you want to do. The research one is very simple in comparison, so I'll show that one first. So I'm not going to create a new one because that takes a few minutes to actually show the changes. But if I go to an existing one, Netlify CMS has direct access to our repository, and that's where it's getting all of this information from. I'm going to remove this body because it's no longer needed, but these two are needed and they're required fields, and they're pretty straightforward: a title and the description. And whatever you type here in the highlighted portion will show up in the research section as its own element. Okay, now to the slightly more complicated one. Let's go ahead and edit the only one we have, the Python web crawler. So these are pretty straightforward, but I do want to go over a few things because you can easily put in the wrong link on the correct platform. So I'll go through that real quick. The first two are obviously pretty straightforward. Here's your title. That's going to be the same on the home page as well as the details page. The thumbnail description is what appears right here. And there's another description field, and that's the one that appears here as a more detailed version. And that's down here at the bottom. And yeah, you do have the choice of markdown or rich text. I would keep the just text here because I'm not sure how images and files and things would be formatted, but you're probably safe since most of the stuff here is automatically centered anyway. You're probably okay. But just to avoid confusion, stick with text to be safe. Okay, the GitHub link is pretty straightforward. That's the URL to your organization's or software's GitHub. So that one's pretty easy. Now the Heroku link, there's two different types of Heroku links, but the one we're looking for is the one that would come with a button like this, the actual deploy to Heroku link that would take the user to the sign in and set up an instance screen, not the Heroku link to an already deployed instance. Because once a software has been uploaded to Heroku and an instance has been created, that user will also get a link to the instanced software. That's not what we want. We want the setup URL. So you would copy from a button, or however you would obtain that on Heroku after a software has been deployed, and that's what you'd put right here. Now, the YouTube embed link, that's not this one up here. It's not the URL. That's this one over here in the blue, because on our details page, we actually source it directly into our site rather than making it an external link to add some flair here and just improve the user experience by reducing the number of clicks and redirects and the time it takes to do it too. So obviously this is not the intended video here. This will be replaced by obviously a tutorial on how to use the software and set it up and everything. But yeah, that's essentially what we're going for here. It's the embed link, not the URL that you would type into just the bar up here. Now the next thing, I should mention that all three of these things are optional, and they do have checking in the actual app to see if this field has been filled out or not. So if I went ahead and erased all of these three things and published it, then the content on the site would dynamically change and update in real time after the rebuild and reflect those changes. It would remove the buttons and the video and let the user know what's happening instead. So you can have as much or as little information as possible, but for the best experience, I would use as much information as possible. But of course, if you have privacy issues or whatever, you can go ahead and skip that part. Now the features, this is a list of things that, just like short blurbs about what you want the user to know. I have two right here. Those are what appear here as well as here. You can have as many as you want, including 0. Now it doesn't say optional like the other ones, but it actually is optional. So if I were to get rid of both of these, then those two elements would just completely disappear, not even be accounted for, and you would be totally fine. And here's the button to add another one. And you can also reorder them. And then we already talked about this. This is the extended description that's used on the details page. And I would keep this description up here pretty short to make these elements on the home page as small in height as possible. Just kind of makes it look cleaner and nicer for the user. Yeah, I think that's everything to do with Netlify CMS. So things in progress right now, we're pretty much finishing up the project. Greg is taking over the official deployment because there was some logistics issues with transferring ownership and everything. And then the only other thing I can think of that's on that list comes from the donation tool, which will be finished once we get the official Opportunity Hack credentials, and users will be able to make donations directly to Opportunity Hack. Thank you.